Hello, welcome to Miniature Realms. My name is Stuart, and this is a second video reviewing the new Pike Shotte Epic Battles frames that Warlord Games very kindly sent me, and this time around the focus is on the Cavalry Sprue. This sprue will be found in the Bush of Pike starter set when it's released in April, and will also be found in the English Civil War's Cavalry set and the 30-Year War Cavalry set, and the only difference really is how you choose to paint them and the flag sheet that's provided. Now, the format of this sprue is very different to that of the infantry sprue. The infantry sprue effectively allows you to make one regiment, a mix of pike and musketeers. This sprue is a real mix of different troop types and different things, as we'll discuss as the review goes on. To get the most out of it, you need a full box or the full starter set, so to speak, because with multiple frames it will give you enough of each of the individual components to make up the regiments or the artillery batteries and so on and so on. However, I really like the way that they have maximised the space on this sprue to squeeze on all of the different troop types. That means that together with the infantry sprue, you're able to do a two frame release in the starter set to cover most of your needs to have a really good balanced game. So a full box, so that's 3 frames that you would get in your sort of normal box. You obviously get more in the starter set, but 3 frames would be enough to make 30 arquebusiers, 6 cuirassiers, 3 cornets, 9 mounted dragoons, 15 dismounted dragoons, 18 commanded shot, 3 Seika medium guns, 3 falconet light guns, and 3 mounted battalion commanders, and 3 ensigns on foot. And you get your plastic bases and your flag sheets as well, depending on the flavour that you chose at purchase. And for the full starter set, you will get both sets of flag sheets. So first up, let's have a quick look at the light cannon, the falconet gun. So you have a small piece there, and you've got a crewman attached to either wheel, and those 2 wheels fit together on either side and go on the normal cannon base. Now for the larger gun, which is the medium Seika cannon, and this is a little bit more like the American Civil War and Napoleonic sized cannons. There is still a crewman attached to each wheel, and then there are 2 further crewmen which fit together slightly different to the Napoleonic and American Civil War releases, where they are separate and fit on at the back. These are the commanded shot, and they can be used as separate individual musketeer units, or they can be added to your musket sleeves. Here are some of your arquebusiers, which is your sort of most commonly used cavalry, I believe, from my limited research. Nice mix of sculpts there between the 2 different styles of headwear. And you've got a bugle there that you can add to the back of one of the miniatures to represent a musician. So this little chap here is a cornet, which you can add to multiple units as a standard bearer. We also have some dragoons, both mounted with a mixture of different poses and headwear, and we also have foot options as well. And then last up here with the different troop types, you have some cuirassiers, and there's only a couple on each frame, so 2 different sculpts available. And there will only be 6 of them in the total standard box set of 3 frames. So the quality of the miniatures, I believe, is excellent. The detail is very good. They fit in well with the scale of the infantry models, as you'd expect, and they seem to fit in with the expected quality based on the previous Waterloo and American Civil War ranges. They very much hold up to those, and I'm pretty impressed with them. As someone new to the period, there may well be period experts that could add further comment on those, but I've not seen anything online yet from people who have seen the pictures, anything negative about poses really, or uniform and things like that, which are often things that people tend to pick up on a little bit more. Now, it being epic scale, and the whole premise, I think, they haven't said as much, but they have in previous releases, of doing as much they can with as fewer frames as possible because of the cost involved. There is, as I mentioned earlier, an awful lot on this frame. I like it. I think it's a smart way of bringing us lots of things rather than leaving us without things, or leaving us to wait for things maybe to later come out in Warlord resin. Now, I think there will be additional things as part of this release, but it's nice that there will be less and less things that have to come along at a later stage, and which makes this box set, I believe, probably the most rounded of all the releases so far. Now, the American Civil War one has recently been updated, so that release now is a little bit better than the new starter set, so to speak. But I'm a big fan of how much they've squeezed in this frame. Now, that is not, of course, without its downfalls as well, which will be that some people only want certain units or certain miniatures, and if they want a lot of them, they may well end up having to buy more boxes than they need for other things and have lots of excess. For example, if you wanted lots and lots and lots of cuirassier, that's a lot of frames just for 2 on each. But yeah, I'm willing to accept that that's the best solution to give us all the things that we may need to play a decent starter army and to build some armies that won't, of course, suit everybody. So those of you who have seen the inventory review will know that I took it all off the frame, cleaned it up, and had a little play around with it to see how well it went together. And these miniatures, I'm going to do something similar. However, I won't take quite as much off the frame. As mentioned a little bit earlier, you can't really build too many whole regiments or units from one standard frame. There just aren't enough cuirassiers to build a unit when you've only got 2 on the frame, for example. So I decided to stick to a few of the things that you could pop on a base and give you a bit of an idea of what it may look like. First up here we have some commanded shot, and that's not the way they've been pictured on the back of the box. I think it's pretty much in 2 ranks, but let me know your thoughts in the comments. Could you do it like this as a bit more of a kind of a mixed skirmish line? Those are people who are experts in the combat at the time. Would that be too unrealistic? If not, you can make your miniatures go a little bit further. So rather than your sort of 24 commanded shots split over 3 bases, could you put just 6 to a base and increase the number of units you get out of it? Let me know in the comments. Just as with the inventory frame, these miniatures came off the frames and cleaned up very easily. There are mould lines, as you'd expect with any plastic miniature, but I didn't really have any issues cleaning them off on any of the miniatures that I have done so far. Using a mixture of modelling line file and mould line remover was all I needed. As I mentioned earlier, I decided to leave the cavalry models on the sprue for now. I'll wait for future models before I decide how to base them and how to divide them all up. But I thought it'd be fun to build up the cannons. I decided to just stick one side of the wheel down and then balance the rest. This will make it a lot easier to paint later on. So this is your Seika medium gun. You'll notice it's a slightly thinner profile than the American Civil War and Napoleonic guns, and also the 3rd and 4th crew members aren't attached to those side strips with the wheels, and I've placed them directly at the back just as pictured on the box art. However, you could easily place those to one side and really give yourself a little bit of variety in your artillery batteries. Now we can see the Falconet light gun. And again, that's just 2 wheels with 2 crew members on each side and quite a small gun there. It's a little bit lost, I'd say, on the base compared to the other guns, but this is the standard artillery size base for all of the Epic releases. And as soon as you've added a tuft or 2 or a rock or something like that on the base, it won't look empty. I thought to finish off I'd also build one of the battalion commanders and the ensign as well. I say build, I've cleaned them up and blue tacked them on the base. The commander itself has little foot pegs which will go into the centre of the base, and if you glue him on using those, that leaves you no space really to put the ensign on. So I'd recommend trimming them off and placing him to one side of the square base. However, I usually base my commanders on round anyway, so I will imagine that he will find his way on a different size base before I get round to painting him. So what are my overall thoughts on the sprue? I really like it. I like how much they've packed on there to keep this release as a 2-frame release for now. I don't know if there'll be more plastic in the future. I appreciate that some people would have preferred this maybe split up into another frame so that you could have more cuirassier or something like that. But I kind of understand why they've done it from a business point of view. The investment in tooling for a frame is very, very high, and you want to make sure that you kind of get your money's worth. I appreciate also there will be the odd person out there that gets, really wants some cuirassier and doesn't want to have to spend the money on a whole frame. So it would be swings and roundabouts. But for me, for my uses, and I know for a lot of gamers' uses out there, this format will work just fine. One slight headache for the sprue could be understanding what everything is that's on it, and I think Warlord would benefit from providing a picture as part, either in the box or even just on the website, along with the picture of the frame, the sprue, that was numbered and labelled, so we knew what each piece was just by making a quick reference to a picture. I think James Cutts, either on his review on Shakos and Sprues or in a comment on Facebook, made the point that you could have the numbers on the miniatures on the frame, which would be absolutely fantastic. But even if you just go as far as labelling a picture and having that available on the website, it could be very useful. As I said, especially people who are new to the period. And I know my Napoleonics are much better than I know this, but even then I was scratching my head at times on the cavalry frames there, working out which was which heavy cavalry, and that would have been useful there. For here, where there's so many different miniatures or types and types of troop covered, it would be useful to add, but it's definitely not something that's a thumbs down. It's just a little, have you thought of doing this? But all in all, I think they've knocked it out the park with this frame. Really, it covers so much, and as part of the overall starter set, it really does make it the rounded thing that it is. I look forward to seeing what people do with these when they start getting them free on the next issue of War Games Illustrated, the April issue. I imagine there'll be some frames knocking around at Salute this year, and it'll be interesting to see when people start painting them when they get their boxes in April. I'm going to be hoping, I think, for some cavalry frames with my War Games Illustrated, so maybe I can do some painting tutorials for a unit or two for that, but I'll definitely start with painting tutorials for infantry. So if you have any suggestions or any requests of which regiment or colour scheme you'd like, pop them in the comments. I know that probably should have fitted in the last video, but I'd love to know what people would like to see, because I'll be working on that soon. If you haven't checked out the first review, I'll pop a little link in now. Do go and check out the review of the infantry sprue and let me know what you think there. And also check out the launch chat that I had with Miller from Miller's Miniatures when we discussed the whole set and what it might mean, and our hopes for the future, and our guesses or expectations of what might come in future waves. And last of all, if you are new to the channel, please do go and check out the other videos on there. There's plenty of painting tutorials and other coverage of Warlord Games' Epic Battles ranges in both Waterloo and American Civil War. Plenty of other stuff on the channel as well, being that fantasy, being that World War II, lots of different scales. So go and have another look at the videos there. And if you like what you see, consider giving the channel a subscription. If you like the video, please do give the video a like. It helps it get seen by others and helps let me know that I'm doing a decent enough job for you to make it this far into the video. Thanks very much for watching. Take care. I'll catch you soon.